So I just want to talk about boundaries. It's really important to understand that we need boundaries and we really need to communicate clearly our boundaries. Boundaries is what is mine and what is yours. And one of the things that can often happen is that we can be rescuers, or we have people in our life that rescue us. If we're a rescuer, that really is that we're taking on the responsibility of something that someone could do for themselves. If you've got strong boundaries, often we have this kind heart and we want to help so many people. But the downfall we can have of that is that we do too much for people. We do things that they could do for themselves. We say, oh, I'll do that for you, and instead of I'll show you how to do it. So that's rescuing, and often people that are rescuers have no boundaries. They don't know how to say no. They don't know how to, what's acceptable for me. They just say yes to everything. So we really need to be very aware of what are our boundaries, what's okay for me. This concept of being that I talk about a lot, so it's B for body, E for emotions, I for intellect, N for neighbour, relational, and G for God, So what are my boundaries? What are my physical boundaries? Who am I going to let touch me? How long are they allowed to touch me? Am I going to get physically close with someone that, that normally would be your husband and wife, or wife? Do you have boundaries around who is allowed to touch you, get close to you in your physical space? Emotions, who, it's important to know that we're only responsible for our own emotions. So we can't be afraid to tell someone the truth kindly and be concerned about how they're going to react. Are they going to get upset? Are they going to get angry? That's about boundaries. We're only responsible for our own emotions. If they get upset, that's their responsibility. Their response is their responsibility. So intellectual, what are my thoughts? What are the beliefs that I have? What are my boundaries around that? What's okay for me? Am I okay with the fact that others have their own thoughts and values and things like that? So understanding what's mine, what's yours. I can't control yours. You can't control mine. N for neighbour, relationships. Who am I going to let be in my inner circle? Who are the people that I want to spend a lot of time with? Are there people intruding on that I actually don't want them to have a lot of time in my life? Maybe there's someone that's really abusive. Maybe you've got a narcissist in your life. You get to decide whether they're in your life or not. So who am I going to have boundaries around in my relationships? And G, God, spiritual. What are my spiritual values? What do I believe? We need to realise that we all have a different Christian worldview. We may all have Christian friends, but they may have quite a different perspective on their faith than you do. But it's not our job to correct others. That's God's job. What are our boundaries on what I believe spiritually? So really, it's just about understanding, who am I? What are my values? What am I going to stay strong in? I'm going to be in relationship with others, but I'm going to do it in a healthy way. I'm not going to intrude on their boundaries. I've got to stop people intruding on mine. I need to be clear. I need to explain, this feels really uncomfortable for me, or I go to bed at 9 o'clock at night, it's time for you to go now. We just need to be able to speak the truth in love, work out what our boundaries are and communicate them clearly. If we're not clear, how can the other person respect our boundaries? So controllers can't hear no, and compliance can't say no. So this is a boundary issue as well. If you've got a controller in your life and they demand things from you, and if you need to say no, if you need to speak the truth in love and just say no, I can't do that. If they're a controller, they won't respect your no. They'll react in very inappropriate ways, but you need to understand that and not change your boundary and what's important to you. So don't change just because they're throwing a paddy at the other end. And realise that compliance, those are the rescuers, can't say no, So it's really just understanding, what's important to me, what are my values, What are going to be my physical, emotional, intellectual, relational and spiritual boundaries? Have I communicated those clearly to others? And will I stay strong if they are reactive and don't respond in a healthy way, because I know who I am? Thank you for joining me.